Yes, it's not a script sample. So I do venture outside of the PMP script samples repository to do other things. And one of those things is I do spend a lot of time learning and playing with Microsoft 365 Copilot. And some of that yields outputs to things like a blog. So I figured, well, if I'm blogging about agents, can I have an agent about blogging about an agent? Blogging about an agent. There's a bit of a sort of loop going on there in my head continuously, almost like an infinite loop. Luckily, I survived. Come on, PowerPoint, you're failing today. So who am I? I'm a Microsoft MVP in the 365 development categories and also Copilot as well. I am the owner of PMP Script Samples. You might have guessed by my previous talk, but for those watching the recording, then yeah, I run that. I also blog as well, and I don't know if you've noticed, but I'm also an avid talker. I talk lots and lots and lots, and that includes things like bad dad jokes and puns as well. So you will get those throughout any sort of conversation with me. So no forgiveness, but that is me. So one of the things I do is, like I said, I do blogging, and I thought it would be useful to see if I can bake in an agent that would support my blogging sort of abilities. Now, you don't. So I've got a demo which I'll show shortly on how I do this in Copilot. But you can. So I target my own blog in the data source of this, because it's something that I can use. However, you don't have to. So if you've got a blog or you've got a corporate website or you do a lot of content creation, then what you can do is you can alter this sample to target your website or your data sources and use it on your sites. Because obviously, if you install it on your tenant, the sample, and you're seeing my website, I'm sure you'd be like, yeah, it's probably not what I'm after. So by all means, you can customize this to meet your scenario. So I'm just going to flip over now to a bit of a demo. So I'm going to jump straight into it. So I have submitted my offerings. GitHub was a little bit flaky earlier, so hopefully we've got a more stable environment now. So I'm just going to show you what the end result is first before I switch to code. So I've got a tenant with M365 Copilot on it, and actually there's some good news actually, because Microsoft very recently changed the game with Copilot. So tenants without a Copilot license will now get M365 Copilot chat license for free. And of those capabilities are part of that. And I have more than one tenant, and I installed this blog helper agent, which I'll show shortly, onto that tenant, and it continues to work in that environment well. So you're not anymore constrained to having an M365 Copilot license, at least for this scenario as well. So there is a blog. I don't have that on the screen, but there is a blog about from Microsoft around what you can, what capabilities you can use with that Copilot free chat. And the good news is you can use this. So I'm just going to quickly show here. So this is the helper agent. So behind the scenes, I target my website. Things that you need to think about when you're navigating through this is things like setting up an agent, branding, and these sort of starter areas and so forth, just to get that started. And I put some of these in for demoability, but also for my own use as well, so that if I want to start a blog, I want to get some ideas in terms of how the introduction might look, or even the conclusion as well. And what I'll show you in a minute is also the header images. I tend to lean towards Designer to generate those, and this agent now has that support in that as well with the latest schema, which is super cool. So I'm just going to show you what my website looks like. Again, like I said, this doesn't have to be this website, of course. If you've got your own, target that content so that you can at least see what you've got. You can reference it. As you can see here, I've got it's quite obvious that I use Designer in a way. There's that kind of like generated AI-esque imagery you've got here along the top here. And I've even got a blog post to helper agent that I target as part of this demo for the blog blog post helper agent. So there's a little bit of an inception loop going on there with the agent helping the agent, talking about the agent of itself. So and even then, I actually updated the agent based on the review from the agent. So so there's a bit of trickery going on there. So I got a few samples here. If you're interested in learning about this, obviously check this out if you want to. But with the agent, what you can then go and then you can sort of click, say, for example, I want to get a summary of one of my posts. So I can just click on this sort of summaries, say, understanding the experience of an agent in Teams chat, and then it will go away, look at my website, and then sort of generate a summary of that information. So if you need to use that in, if you had like if you want to communicate that out, you can generate a quick summary of your post for like sort of social media or internal comms if you wanted to distribute that chat. So that's sort of one example. And then you got.
Paul, could you zoom in just a slight bit for us, just so it's better for the. Sure. Thank you. Very good. Thank you.
Is that right? Yep. So
looks great.
Fine. Yep. So the other ones are, for example, create this header image for a blog post. Just quickly, I'll just show you what that looks like. So it's just a prompt just to get that sort of image generation going. So the designer will produce that imagery as you see here, and I actually tend to use this bit more than the functions actually in Copilot actually for this. But as you can see, I've got a selection of imagery I could use for the header if I like the style. I probably need to be a bit more creative with the prompt, if I'm honest, but at least it gives you an idea of what you can do within the agent without having to leave an experience and go and hunt down designer and then navigate to its image generation as well. So how did I do all this? So I'm just going to flip over to one of my repos. I'm just going to move this bar out of the way. And I've got code spaces running. So you can run, can work with declarative agents using Teams Toolkit in code spaces. I did it for a work demo recently, so I didn't have to keep setting up environments and so forth. I could just have this thing follow me wherever I went, which is super cool. So it's all in the browser. So I'm just going to run through quickly how this works. So in order to get a declarative agent, created, you can go into Teams Toolkit. You can run through the sort of create a new app experience, create that declarative agent, and so forth to run through that experience. I won't dwell on that because there's been some great demos recently. I think Vesa, you did one with building one in 20 seconds. Mine took longer than 20 seconds. I was very disappointed in myself. So there are examples of how to set this up. So I won't go into too much of that. The next thing you'll get a scaffolded out an agent package here. I'm just going to just highlight a few files. So we navigate down to this declarative agent JSON file that's generated. So the first thing you need to focus on is things like making sure that your name and descriptions are well thought out. Again, I got another blog post on that. I'm using the schema of 1.2. I'm going to zoom in a little bit, actually, if that's a bit more readable. Here you go. Of 1.2 because it gives me the capabilities of graphic art, which is that sort of SharePoint designer like experience. And there is another one called Code Interpreter. So I was playing with this actually last night, and it's more focused around Python. If you want to do like data science instructions and so forth, which seems to be the use case here. The next thing you need to get right is the instructions. So the instructions are very important to tell the agent what you want it to do so that it can then operate again in a certain way, in a certain set of parameters, examples, and so forth. So I'm just going to navigate over to here. I just went over to the instruction.txt file. So I kind of cheated on all this. So in all of this text that's created for the instructions, you might be thinking, wow, that's quite a lot of text to generate out, from an agent. It must have taken you ages to get the instructions right to produce the output. It did not. I actually went to Copilot in M365 and said, hey, I'm actually wanting to build a declarative agent with these capabilities. Can you produce a list of a summary of the capabilities, instructions for use, and the examples? And it produced all of this. So I thought, as an experiment, I'm going to stick all this in the instructions file. And hey ho, actually, it actually met the requirement very, very well, actually. So now my agent was able to respond in a way that I was happy with and produce things and suggest things in a format based on these instructions. So, for example, I wanted, the ability to author code if I wanted suggestions. I'm not the best at grammar and style suggestions for readability because I write these at like 10, 11 o'clock at night. So it's got to the end of my day. So I may want that sort of like, hey, that sort of support from a Copilot to help me check over my my grammatical errors and things like that. I've got the ability to review previous posts, and again things like instructions for you. So starting a new post, what it could suggest, and so forth, which is super cool. So once you've done the instructions, then think about the data sources, right? So I want this to target my website. So I need to then configure the capabilities block within this. You use the web search named parameter there in the capabilities, and then you can target your website. Obviously, I've used mine in this example, but this could be any sort of website that you feel like that you would want to target. So, and I've had people actually came back to me when I posted this on LinkedIn when I first released the sample, and you can have more than one website. One thing to bear in mind as well: make sure you do ensure your website is indexed by Bing, because if it's not, then you may not get the results you are looking for. And then the last thing you need to then think about is the conversation starters. So if you do like a set of actions quite commonly, I've actually tried to put in some examples in here so I can remember if I go to the agent every couple of weeks, what does this thing do? I can't remember what capabilities are baked into it. So it gives you a hint on what to do, and also a snippet of a sample close to the prompt that you may want to use anyway. So you can just tweak it a little bit, and then you can get the output you're looking for in that as well. And these are all the sort of general building blocks. So you can then go into Teams Toolkit here, you can hit provision, and then it will hit your tenant and install it into this spot here. And then you can perform said actions. And that is pretty much it in a nutshell. We have this. I have the sample release now. It's in Bob German's repo, not Paul German's repo, as the renamed. So it's available there as well. So if you want to have a look at that, by all means, have a look at the code, adapt it. If you feel that's a good use case for your scenarios, if it can help it out, then by all means, it's open in the community as well. And again, I've got a few posts around agents and so forth if you're looking for any help. So I hope that's been useful. I just want to see if there's anything else on my slide deck. Yes, there is. Just one more thing.
I think you got a cool resources slide, right? Would be great to capture in the video.
Indeed. So I'll just navigate there. So we've got some links to the there's a Copilot developer camp that Bob Jones and the dev advocates have got set up. So it runs you through quite a few advanced scenarios. You set up a declarative agent, then API plugins, and then you can do custom engine agents, which is super cool. Actually, I've been spending a lot of time in that space, so reading through the material, it's really helpful, step by step. Clear instructions on how to do this, and I got a few blog posts, and again the sample repository I was talking about that's Bob German. There's loads of other dev samples in there as well. As you see, Frank released one recently, which I'm actually reading through. Super cool. So there is some great stuff in that repository there, and of course the Microsoft adoption site as well has got sample solution galleries for everything else. So I hope that's been useful. That's it for me, David, and thank you very much for listening.